So hello students, all of you, welcome back to your own channel, Vedantu Science Olympiad. This is Basavaraj sir, your biology master students. Welcome back all of you. Now all of you, हमने पहले class में, right? This is the first class here. Now in this class, if you have watched it, very good. If you have not watched it, please watch this particular lecture, students. Now in this lecture, we finished something called as male and female reproductive structures, right? We learned about male reproductive system that has primary sex organ. That is, students, can anyone tell me which is the primary sex organ? Students, anyone who can tell me which is the primary sex organ in the case of male? In the case of male, the primary sex organ was, students, was the testis. Let's say in the case of female, it was the ovaries. Yes or no, students? We learnt about primary sex organ. We also learnt about the secondary sex organs. Secondary sex organs in the case of your, let's say, male, we have different types of ducts. We have different types of glands. Yes or no? There is seminal vesical gland, bulbourethral gland, and there is prostate gland. और हमने ये भी पढ़ा था कि हम ovaries के अंदर ना, ovaries के अंदर what are the different parts inside. Then we also learnt about secondary sexual, right? The secondary organs here, right? Secondary sex organs here, that is oviduct, vagina, everything, right? So all of this was covered in the first video. Now what is the agenda? What we'll be learning in today's class, students? In today's class, we will be understanding the gametogenesis. Now, students, first of all, understand what is the meaning of gametogenesis. Gametogenesis is a process which happens in the humans. It happens in the humans, the process of making gametes. So gametogenesis is a process by which gametes, students, gametes are produced. Gametes are produced here. Now, students, all of you, 11th, not 11th, I don't think so, students. 11th, you cannot give NSEJS. You cannot. Okay. So, थोड़ा late हो गया. 11th में नहीं हो सकता, students. अगर आप 11th में हो ना already, you can start preparing for NEET. You are in 11th right now. So, start preparing for NEET examination or JEE examination. So, if you love biology, NEET is the go. If you love physics, mathematics, you can go for JEE. Right? That is advanced, students. JEE or NEET. Now, students, now, all of you need to understand there are two types of gametogenesis. One is called as spermatogenesis, other is called as oogenesis. Now, what is the difference? Spermatogenesis happens in the case of males, while oogenesis takes place in the case of female. इसको छोड़ के बहुत सारे डिफरेंस और भी है, पर इस क्लास में ना I'll be teaching you the proper flow chart. अगर इस फ्लो चार्ट को एक बार समझ लोगे ना स्टूडेंट्स, पूरा का पूरा टॉपिक समझ जाओगे. लाइक पूरा टॉपिक लाइक कितना माइंड में फिक्स हो जाएगा ना, हर एक क्वेश्चन आप सॉल्व कर सकते हो, स्टूडेंट्स. सो वी विल बी स्टार्टिंग द क्लास विद स्टूडेंट्स. टुडेस क्लास वी विल बी स्टार्टिंग ऑफ विद spermatogenesis. Students, can I get a thumbs up, students? Can I get a thumbs up in the chat? Students, can I get a thumbs up in the chat? Can we start spermatogenesis, students? Spermatogenesis, the process of production of sperm in the seminiferous tubule of testis during the puberty is called as spermatogenesis, students. Spermatogenesis. Now, students, all of you, right? All of you, what is the end product of spermatogenesis, students? What is the end product of spermatogenesis? From spermatogenesis, there is sperm formation, and from oogenesis, in the case of female, there is egg or ovum formation. Better, it is called as secondary oocyte release. Okay, so students, don't worry, I will teach you every single point here. Okay, students, can we start, all of you? Shall we start? Yes, students, all of you smash the like button. All of you have marked your attendance by smashing the like button. All of you have marked the attendance by smashing the like button. All of you, yes, all of you, quickly smash the like button, because I want all of you to write this with me. I want everyone to make the notes with me right now, students. All of you, can we start? Perfect students, perfect. Now let's start with spermatogenesis. Now students, if you have watched, right, if you watch my lecture, right, of the structures, the male and female reproductive structures, I told you students, in the case of testis, students, I don't know how many of you remember, let's say this is one testis right now, one testis. Inside the testis, students, what do we have? We have around 250 compartments. Students, there are 250 compartments inside one testis. These compartments are called as what? These compartments are called as testicular lobule. Testicular lobules. Yes or no? Now, inside this compartment, there are 1 to 3 highly coiled structures. Students, what do you call that? Inside the seminiferous tubule, what do we have, students? Inside the testicular lobule, what do we have? Inside the testicular lobule, we have the seminiferous tubule, right? Seminiferous tubule, students, seminiferous tubule. Now students, हर एक seminiferous tubule के अंदर क्या है अभी? एक seminiferous tubule के अंदर क्या है students? Let's take one seminiferous tubule here. इस seminiferous tubule के अंदर की तरफ ना दो तरह के सेल्स मिलते हैं स्टूडेंट्स. एक है हमारा, there are two type of cells inside seminiferous tubule. Okay, two types of cells inside seminiferous tubule. Now the first cell is called as what? Male germ cell, which is also called as spermatogonia. The second cell is called as Sertoli cell. Sertoli cell, which helps students. Sertoli cell. Students, itna yaad hai sabko? Students, obviously I remember everyone. Okay. Now students, obviously I have a botanist. Students, I'm a botanist. I remember so many plants, so I can remember humans easily. ठीक है. अभी जो बाहर की तरफ है ना, जो this is called as, here we will find something called as Leydig cell. Students, इतना क्लियर सबको बताओ स्टूडेंट्स, इतना क्लियर है सबको स्टूडेंट्स, इतना क्लियर है सबको स्टूडेंट्स. एक टेस्टिस के अंदर 250 कंपार्टमेंट्स है, टेस्टिकुलर लॉब्यूल, which inside testicular lobule there is 1 to 3 seminiferous tubule. इस seminiferous tubule के अंदर की तरफ ना दो तरह के सेल्स हैं. एक है male germ cell, also called as spermatogonia. The second cell is called as Sertoli cell. स्टूडेंट्स, इतना सबको क्लियर है क्या? स्टूडेंट्स जल्दी से बताओ, स्टूडेंट्स जल्दी से कमेंट में बताओ, इतना सबको क्लियर है स्टूडेंट्स? सबको इतना क्लियर है क्या? ऑल ऑफ यू स्टूडेंट्स, मिल जाएगा तेजस मिल जाएगा. स्टूडेंट्स, इतना सबको क्लियर है? ठीक है स्टूडेंट्स. सभी स्टूडेंट्स याद रखो कि ये स्पर्मेटोगोनिया है ना, ये डिप्लॉयड सेल है. पूरा का पूरा स्पर्मेटोजेनेसिस यहीं से स्टार्ट होगा, यहीं से पूरा का पूरा स्पर्मेटोजेनेसिस स्टार्ट होगा. देखो स्टूडेंट्स, देखो अभी क्या होता है. The entire spermatogenesis starts with a diploid cell at puberty. So spermatogenesis takes place at puberty. Here we have a diploid cell, students. Here we have a diploid cell. Let's say here we have a diploid cell here. Diploid cell. This diploid cell is called as what? It is called as spermatogonia, also called as male germ cell, also called as male germ cell, students. Now it is a diploid cell. It means it has, students, how many chromosomes? Students, all of you, how many chromosomes do we have, students? All of you, tell me. अगर एक सेल डिप्लॉयड सेल है, उसके अंदर कितने क्रोमोसोम्स मिलेंगे? दो सेट क्रोमोसोम्स, 23 पेयर ऑफ क्रोमोसोम्स है ना. डिप्लॉयड माने 23 क्रोमोसोम्स. सो टोटल स्टूडेंट्स, हाउ मच इज 23 into 2, students? In total you will find 46 chromosomes inside. You will find 46 chromosomes there. I need more space, students. Okay. Now, students, these cells undergo initially they undergo mitosis. Initially, they undergo something called as mitosis. Now, students, tell me, mitosis is called as equational division. Now, if there is mitosis, let's say I end up getting two cells here, two cells. Now, are these two cells diploid or haploid? Students, is there a change in chromosome number? हर अगर एक cell if it undergoes mitosis उसके अंदर chromosome number कम होगा क्या? नहीं होगा. So these two cells, students, these two cells are also going to be what? Diploid in nature. Diploid in nature, students. Diploid in nature. ठीक है students? ठीक है. Now इसमें से ना एक cell, let's say तेरा ये divide हो रहा है उसके बाद ये आगे जाके भी divide होगा. It can increase in number. It can increase in number. Mitosis करेगा और mitosis करेगा ये आगे जाके और mitosis करेगा. यहां से और दो सेल बनेंगे. यहां से भी और दो सेल बनेंगे स्टूडेंट्स. ठीक है. यहां से भी और दो सेल ऐसे बनते रहेंगे. बहुत सारे सेल्स बनते रहेंगे ऐसे. माइटोसिस होते रहते होते बहुत सेल्स बनते होंगे पर हर एक सेल क्या है? डिप्लॉयड है यहां पर. हर एक सेल डिप्लॉयड है यहां पर. हर एक सेल डिप्लॉयड है. नाउ स्टूडेंट्स लेट्स से वन सेल. नाउ वन सेल अंडरगोस डिफरेंशिएशन. एक सेल यहां पर थोड़ा मोटा हो जाएगा, बड़ा बन जाएगा स्टूडेंट्स. इट अंडरगोस ग्रोथ एंड डिफरेंशिएशन. इट अंडरगोस growth now. Undergoes growth. It becomes bigger. Let's say we draw bigger cell, student. Bigger cell. बड़ा बन जाएगा थोड़ा. Now this diploid cell is called as primary spermatocyte. It is called as what, students? It is called as primary spermatocyte. बड़ा बन गया स्टूडेंट्स. Now अगर एग्जामिनेशन में पूछेंगे आपको what is the ploidy of primary spermatocyte, उसका आंसर क्या है स्टूडेंट्स बताओ. If they ask you question, students, only one cell, yes, only one cell. There are many cells who gets bigger also. Many cells get bigger, but I am showing you only one cell now. Eventually it gets bigger. Now in examination, if they ask you what is the ploidy of primary spermatocyte, उसका आंसर क्या है स्टूडेंट्स? Are they diploid, haploid, triploid, or none of the above? They are going to be diploid. They are going to be diploid itself. माने 46 chromosomes यहाँ पर. Now students, this primary spermatocyte now undergoes something called as meiosis. Students, आपको पता है meiosis के अंदर क्या होता है? There is something called as meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, है ना? तो यहां पर पहले meiosis 1 हो रहा है. ठीक है, meiosis 1 हो रहा है यहां पर. meiosis 1 होने के बाद हमारे पास एक प्राइमरी स्पर्मेटोसाइट से दो सेल बनके निकल के आ गए. यहां पर दो सेल निकल के आ गए, दो सेल लगे स्टूडेंट्स. अब बताओ स्टूडेंट्स, ये जो सेल दो सेल बनके आए ना यहां पर, व्हाट इज द प्लॉइडी स्टूडेंट्स? व्हाट इज द प्लॉइडी ऑफ दीस स्टूडेंट्स? स्टूडेंट्स, व्हाट इज द प्लॉइडी ऑफ टू सेल्स? These two cells are called as, right here, these two cells are called as secondary spermatocyte. They are called as secondary spermatocyte. Secondary spermatocyte. Anyone? What is the ploidy? Anyone? What is the ploidy of these two cells? What is the ploidy of these two cells which have undergone meiosis 1? If they have gone under meiosis 1, students, these two cells are going to be haploid in nature. Students, these two cells are going to be haploid. Why? क्योंकि meiosis is a reduction division. वहां पर chromosome number ना half हो रहे हैं. So if here we had 46 chromosomes, this will have 23 chromosomes. 23 chromosomes. ठीक है स्टूडेंट्स? It is going to be haploid. Okay, students, समझो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है ये, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट कॉन्सेप्ट है यहां पर. Now these are called as what, students? These are called as secondary spermatocyte. Now I'll change this to this side now, students. Change it to this side. यहां पर जगह नहीं है तो इस तरफ लिखूंगा अब मैं. ठीक है, इस तरफ लिखते हैं अभी. Now, okay. Now let's me just continue from here to here. Now we'll continue here to here. Now let's say we have secondary spermatocyte right now. We have two secondary spermatocyte. Okay, now students, now they will undergo something called as what? They will undergo something called, यहाँ पर ऊपर लिख दे students, और बहुत जगह चाहिए हमको yeah. Now these two secondary spermatocyte will undergo right now something called as meiosis 2. Meiosis 2 students, and remember these two are already haploid in nature. These two are already haploid in nature students, haploid in nature. ठीक है, both haploid already, दोनों haploid है. Okay, now students understand. Now after meiosis, this one cell will divide into two cells. Yes or no? Two cells. This will divide into two cells here. So students, tell me, in total how many cells do we get at the end of meiosis 2? Students, sir, at the end of meiosis 2, how many cells do I have? Anyone who can tell me? Students, जल्दी से बताओ. At the end of meiosis 2, we will have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 different haploid cells. 4 different haploid cells, students. 4 different haploid cells. Okay. Now, students, here, let's say this was 22 plus X. This was 22 plus Y. Because in the case of male, we have X and Y chromosome. Now, currently, let's say these two are 22 plus X. These two are 22 plus Y. Now, students, what do you call these structures? Students, these two structures, students, do they look like sperm? First of all, tell me, students, do they look like sperm right now? All of you, do they look like sperm? No. So these are not sperm actually. After meiosis 2, the secondary spermatocyte will give you something called as spermatid. Spermatids. And spermatids are haploid in nature. They are haploid in nature. They are haploid in nature. These are called as spermatids right now. Spermatids. Now what happens to understand? These spermatids now undergo one more process. They undergo one more process. Okay. That is called as spermiogenesis. That is called as what? Spermiogenesis. बहुत ही important topic है ये. They undergo spermiogenesis. Spermiogenesis, not spermatogenesis. दी ये पूरा टॉपिक है, पूरा का पूरा टॉपिक है spermatogenesis, but this process is called as spermiogenesis. So at the end of spermiogenesis, what do I get? All of these spermatids, they'll now look like something like this. And these structures are called as what? Sperm, or they are also called as spermatozoa. Spermatozoa, students. Now, here we got sperm, students. Here we got sperm. Now, do you think these sperms are released as such from the testis directly? From here, these sperms are produced here, right? Inside here. This is called as seminiferous tubule. Inside the seminiferous tubule, the spermatogonia is undergoing process to make the sperm inside here. Do you think they're released as such? No. All of these sperms, students, all of these sperms, head is there at head. दिख रहा है ये सर पूरा. This head is now embedded in the Sertoli cell. इस Sertoli cell के अंदर ना इसका सर, sperm का सर घुस जाएगा अंदर. ठीक है? Now what happens? Understand. Head of the sperm, कहां पर लिखो स्टूडेंट्स, कहां पर लिखो, एक बॉक्स बना देते हैं. head of sperm is embedded inside the Sertoli cell. Embedded in the head of the Sertoli cell. Embedded inside the Sertoli cell. Okay, students, entire head of this sperm is inside the Sertoli cell now. Now, let's say all of these sperm are now released out of seminiferous tubule. Now, students, release of sperm from seminiferous tubule, entire seminiferous tubule, that is called as spermiation. Called as what? Spermiation. So I want all of you to understand the difference between spermatogenesis, spermiogenesis, spermiation. Students, एक पूरा कॉन्सेप्ट को मैं पूरा अभी एक रिवाइज कराऊंगा, समझो, हर एक स्टेप को समझो अभी यहां पर. First, students, what happens? Students, tell me, all of you, when do you think the spermatogenesis starts? कब स्टार्ट होगा स्टूडेंट्स? Spermatogenesis starts at the puberty. स्टार्टिंग में हमारे स्टूडेंट, स्टार्टिंग में क्या हमारे पास? स्पर्मेटोगोनिया, ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज मेल जर्म सेल. ये कहां पर है स्टूडेंट्स? कहां पर है ये? स्टूडेंट्स जल्दी बताओ, कहां पर है ये? स्पर्मेटोगोनिया और मेल जर्म सेल, सेम थिंग. They are present inside the seminiferous tubule. Present inside the seminiferous tubule. ठीक है? Now this cell undergoes mitosis eventually. Starting mitosis to increase the number. नंबर बढ़ाने के लिए यहां पर. जब नंबर बढ़ गए ना, एक सेल उसमें से बहुत सारे सेल भी हो सकते हैं, ग्रो कर सकते हैं, पर मैंने एक दिखाया यहां पर. One cell growth and this cell is called as primary spermatocyte. Now this primary undergoes meiosis 1 to give rise to two cells. Second is spermatocyte. So students, primary spermatocyte से second spermatocyte मिल गया हमको अभी. Now the second spermatocyte is haploid. Now this second spermatocyte undergoes meiosis 2 now. Meiosis 2. Now after meiosis 2, लिख लेते हैं यहाँ पर, secondary spermatocyte. Okay, secondary spermatocyte. Now it undergoes same thing, undergoes meiosis 2 to produce 4 haploid structures. Those are called as spermatids. Now, conversion of spermatid into spermatozoa. Spermatid into spermatozoa, उसको हम कहते हैं spermiogenesis. Spermiogenesis. Now, spermiogenesis के बाद क्या हो रहा है? All of these sperm, the head of the sperm, students, where it is embedded in the Sertoli cell, inside the Sertoli cell. उसके बाद release of sperm from seminiferous tubule is called as spermiation. Spermiation के बाद sperm seminiferous tubule से निकल के बाहर चले गए अभी. Students, that is the entire concept of spermatogenesis. Students, कितने कोई डाउट यहां पर? Students, कोई भी डाउट, किसी प्रकार का डाउट यहां पर? किसी प्रकार का डाउट? Students, जल्दी से पूछिए, किसी भी प्रकार का डाउट है क्या यहां पर अभी? जल्दी से, जल्दी से, all of you. किसी भी प्रकार डाउट स्टूडेंट्स, किसी भी प्रकार डाउट है यहां पर? ओके, स्टूडेंट्स, किसी को डाउट है यहां पर? जल्दी से पूछो स्टूडेंट्स, किसको भी डाउट है यहां पर? द एंटायर प्रोसेस ऑफ स्पर्मेटोजेनेसिस ओवर, एक्चुअली ओवर. इतना ही है स्पर्म, इतना इजी है, इतना इजी है समझना इसको स्टूडेंट्स, इतना इजी है. स्टूडेंट्स, समझ आया सबको? समझ आया क्या? देखो स्टूडेंट्स, अभी यहां पर ना इस प्रोसेस को थोड़ा और समझते हैं अभी थोड़ा. देखो देखो, वी हैव स्पर्मेटोगोनिया, प्राइमरी स्पर्मेटोसाइट, meiosis 1, सेकेंड स्पर्मेटोसाइट, उसके बाद स्पर्मेटिड, स्पर्मेटिड से स्पर्मियोजेनेसिस, स्पर्म. स्टूडेंट्स, दिस इज कॉल्ड एज स्पर्मियोजेनेसिस. देखो स्टूडेंट्स, स्पर्मियोजेनेसिस, ये जो स्पर्मेटिड है ना, स्पर्म में कन्वर्ट हो रहा है. ये देखो, ये स्पर्मेटिड्स जो है यहां पर स्पर्म में कन्वर्ट हो रही है, इस तरह से स्टूडेंट देखो. इस तरह से डिवाइड होंगे। यहां पर थोड़ा एक फ्लैचुला बनेगा, उसके बाद ऊपर का पार्ट डिवाइड करेगा, देन वी हैव स्पर्मेटेड ब्रिज, then we get excess cytoplasm is released outside, then we get the acrosome on the top, head, middle piece, tail. तो इस तरह से ना spermatid से यहां पर बन रहा है यहां पर, because students, because we have, in the case of males, we have two types of chromosomes. Yes or no? We have X chromosome and Y chromosome. Yes or no? X chromosome and Y chromosome. So the probability of getting X chromosome is 50%. Probability of Y chromosome is 50%. Okay, so that's why I said here, that's why I said 22 is autosomes, 22 are autosomes, sex chromosome, autosomes, sex chromosomes. So 23 chromosomes here, haploid structure, 23 haploid structure. 50% can be X chromosome, 50% can have Y chromosome. It's a probability thing. देखो यहां पर भी और दिखा है मैंने, स्पर्मियोजेनेसिस दिख रहे हो, स्पर्मेटिड वीक 1, उसके बाद इस तरह से बनेगा, इस तरह से चेंजेस होगा, इस तरह से चेंजेस हो के ना एक स्पर्म बनेगा यहां पर, ठीक है, that is spermiogenesis. After spermiogenesis, sperm head becomes embedded in the Sertoli cell and are finally released from the seminiferous tubule called as spermiation. Students, एक क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं यहां पर। स्टूडेंट्स, मेरी हिंदी थोड़ी वीक है, I am trying to learn a little bit of Hindi and teach. So my Hindi is not great as your Hindi, obviously. ठीक है, मेरी हिंदी उतनी अच्छी नहीं है आपकी जितनी, but it is little टूटा फूटा हिंदी we say, no? It is manageable Hindi. ठीक है, because and students, all of you should know I teach on NEET English channel. I teach on Karnataka channel also. Right? I teach on Karnataka channels and I teach on NEET English channel. So it's a habit, right? I've been teaching from past 3 years in only in English. So no, 4 years only in English, right? So it's become a habit of mine. Okay? सर इम्प्रूव बहुत किया, एग्जैक्टली स्टूडेंट, दिव्यांशु को पूछो, जब मैंने पहले स्टार्ट किया था ओलंपियाड चैनल पे ना, वहां पर मेरी इतनी हिंदी आती थी क्या उस समय? स्टूडेंट्स बताओ, इतनी आती थी मेरी हिंदी? सी, मैंने इंप्रूवमेंट दिखाया, आपने भी इंप्रूवमेंट दिखाया मेरे साथ, तो पढ़ाते पढ़ाते ना इंप्रूवमेंट ऑब्वियसली हो जाता है। सो प्रैक्टिस मेक्स परफेक्ट, राइट? स्टूडेंट्स बताएंगे कन्नड़ा में, बताएंगे स्टूडेंट्स, वेट करो, थोड़ा वेट करो ना स्टूडेंट्स। यहां पर ना एक क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं, देखो, which cell helps in spermiogenesis? स्टूडेंट्स बताओ जल्दी से, स्टूडेंट्स जल्दी से बताओ कि स्टूडेंट्स which cell helps in spermiogenesis? Okay, I will ask the same question in Kannada. Okay, ಮಕ್ಕಳೇ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಸ್ಪರ್ಮಿಯೋಜೆನೆಸಿಸ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ನ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾವ ತರ ಸೆಲ್ ಇದೆ? That is in Kannada, student. That is in Kannada, right? That is called as Sertoli cell. That is called as Sertoli cell. So Sertoli cell helps in spermiogenesis, students. Please remember that. Okay, students, please remember that. Sertoli cell, very good. Sertoli cell itself. ठीक है, Sertoli cell itself. ठीक है, देखो इस तरफ स्टूडेंट्स, इस तरह से ना स्पर्मेटोजेनेसिस के बाद इसका पूरा का पूरा जो सर है ना, हेड रीजन, इट इज एम्बेडेड इन द सर्टोली। देखो सर्टोली सेल यहां पर दिख रहा है स्टूडेंट्स, सर्टोली सेल, इस सर्टोली सेल के अंदर इसका सर घुस गया पूरा, दिख रहा है स्टूडेंट्स, सर घुस गया है आफ्टर स्पर्मेटोजेनेसिस। ठीक है स्टूडेंट्स, उसके बाद यहां से जो निकल के बाहर निकलेगा ना, स्पर्मिएशन, उसके बाद स्टूडेंट्स, उसके बाद स्पर्मिएशन। नाउ शैल वी स्टार्ट स्टूडेंट्स, शैल वी स्टार्ट स्टूडेंट्स। स्पर्मेटोजेनेसिस बहुत ही इजी था, बहुत माने बहुत ही इजी था। वो जेनेसिस थोड़ा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है, थोड़ा लेट्स से कुछ 20 to 25 मिनट्स लगेगा इसको पढ़ाने में। सो स्टूडेंट्स, कैन आई गेट अल्टीमेट अटेंशन? बिकॉज अगर यहां पर आप समझ लोगे ना इस बात को, इस कॉन्सेप्ट को अगर समझ लोगे यहां पर ना, 11th 12th में अगर आप बायो ले रहे हो ना, बहुत इजी हो जाएगा। तो चल वी स्टार्ट oogenesis। ठीक है स्टूडेंट्स, ओके स्टूडेंट्स, मनिका समझ नहीं आया, चलेगा, कुछ नहीं आता स्टूडेंट्स, ऑब्वियसली सबको समझ नहीं आएगा। सो स्टूडेंट्स शुरू करें स्टूडेंट्स, शुरू करें। अगर आप पीसीएम भी लोगे ना तो बायोलॉजी होगा आपको, ऑब्वियसली स्टूडेंट्स। पीसीएम ले रहे हो, मैथ्स और बायो दोनों मेरी तरह स्टूडेंट्स, मैंने भी पीसीएम भी लिया था। स्टूडेंट्स शैल वी स्टार्ट, ऑल ऑफ यू, शैल वी स्टार्ट द एंटायर oogenesis? स्टूडेंट्स शुरू करें। नेक्स्ट 20 to 25 मिनट्स मेरे को अल्टीमेट फोकस चाहिए, कहां पर कहीं पर भी मत देखो, पूरी ध्यान से पढ़ो इस बात को, पूरी ध्यान से, ठीक है? चल भी स्टार्ट। मेरे को इस पढ़ाने के लिए ना थोड़ा पेजेस चाहिए मेरे को, थोड़ा रुको स्टूडेंट्स, इसको पढ़ाने के लिए थोड़ा पेजेस चाहिए, पेपर चाहिए मेरे को, पेपर भी चाहिए, एक मिनट थोड़ा, ठीक है? एक मिनट स्टूडेंट, एक मिनट रुको, थोड़ा पेपर फाड़ लेते हैं, थोड़ा मस्त से पढ़ाएंगे, मतलब कॉन्सेप्ट बहुत अच्छी तरह से पढ़ेंगे कॉन्सेप्ट, ठीक है स्टूडेंट्स। नाउ फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई वांट ऑल ऑफ यू टू अंडरस्टैंड स्पर्मेटोजेनेसिस स्टार्टेड एट प्यूबर्टी, है ना, प्यूबर्टी पे स्टार्ट हुआ था, बट oogenesis starts at the embryonic stage, जब फीमेल चाइल्ड इज नॉट इवन बॉर्न, फीमेल चाइल्ड अभी पैदा भी नहीं हुआ है, उससे पहले जब फीमेल चाइल्ड इज प्रेजेंट इन द वूम्ब ऑफ मदर, तब से ना oogenesis स्टार्ट हो जाता है। सो oogenesis starts where students? oogenesis starts where? At the embryonic stage. Embryonic stage. That is the most important point. Okay. Oogenesis starts where? It starts at the embryonic stage. Embryonic stage. When the female child is just an embryo, female child is just developing, embryo, that time itself is starting oogenesis. Okay. Now students, just like spermatogonia was present, students, just like how we had spermatogonia, here we have something called as oogonia. Oogonia is the female germ cell, okay, and this cell is diploid in nature. Diploid in nature, students. This right here is oogonia. Okay. Oogonia, students. Oogonia. Now, students, this oogonia is obviously diploid in nature. All of you know, diploid in nature, which means 46 chromosomes are present here. Okay, oogonia, students. Now, initially, what happens? Initially, this oogonia divides in by mitosis in the starting. Starting में ना सिर्फ mitosis हो रहा है यहाँ पर, mitosis. अगर mitosis हो रहा है students, will there be a change in chromosome number? Students जल्दी से बताओ. ये जो सेल निकल के आएंगे ना बाहर, जो दो सेल यहाँ पर निकल के आ रहे हैं ना, ये दोनों सेल में कुछ चेंज होगा क्या क्रोमोसोम नंबर? कुछ भी नहीं चेंज नहीं होगा स्टूडेंट्स. बोथ आर डिप्लॉयड, बोथ आर डिप्लॉयड इन नेचर, बोथ आर डिप्लॉयड इन नेचर. ना यहां से ना एक सेल, यहां से एक सेल डिफरेंशिएट होगा अगेन. वन सेल डिफरेंशिएट्स, इट अंडरगोस ग्रोथ. स्टूडेंट दिख रहा है ना, छोटा लिख रहा हूं थोड़ा मत स्टूडेंट्स. स्टूडेंट दिख रहा है ना, ये वाला दिख रहा है ना, वो लिखता हुआ, ठीक है. इट स्टार्ट्स एट एम्ब्रियोनिक स्टेज व्हेन द फीसी बेबी इज डेवलपिंग, व्हेन द बेबी इज डेवलपिंग इन द वूम्ब, व्हेन द बेबी इज डेवलपिंग, सेम टाइम embryogenesis is also happening. So oogenesis is also happening same time itself. ठीक है, growth. Now it becomes bigger. Let's say this becomes bigger right now. Bigger. Now this bigger diploid cell is called as what? This bigger diploid cell is called as primary oocyte. It is called as what, students? Primary oocyte right now. Primary oocyte. Now this is where the interesting topic is, students. Very interesting topic. Okay, let me just write it this side. So I'm going to write it here itself, bottom, because I need more space. Okay. This is called as what, students? Primary oocyte, right? Now, students, this primary oocyte now starts to undergo, it is just starting, it starts to undergo something called as meiosis 1. Meiosis 1. Now why do I say it is starting, students? Because ये जो meiosis 1 है ना, it doesn't finish. This meiosis 1 which is starting here, it gets suspended. Pause. Basically pause हो जाएगा, pause. It becomes pause. Not coitus interruptus. Coitus interruptus next chapter पे आएगा, ठीक है? So it undergoes pause right now. Okay? Now students समझो. It gets suspended. Meiosis 1 is now what? It is now Suspended at prophase 1. Prophase 1. Now sometimes they ask you in which stage of prophase 1. If they ask you, students, that answer is diplotin stage. Diplotin stage, students. Diplotin stage is arrested now. Now I want all of you to understand. ये अभी stop हो गया meiosis 1. Meiosis 1 is suspended right now. Until when do you think suspended right now? All of you. This entire thing is happening where, students? This entire thing is happening where? This entire thing is happening embryonic stage. It is happening at the embryonic stage right now. All of this is happening at the embryonic stage. Now what happens after that? Then what do you have, students? Then we have childbirth. The female child is born after this. The female child will grow. That is basically the childhood here. And finally, students, when this child, female child, reaches a stage called as puberty. When this child reaches a puberty, this meiosis 1 is finally completed. So this meiosis 1 is suspended. This meiosis 1 is suspended until where, students? It is suspended until puberty. Suspended, completely stopped. There is not even nothing is happening. It is completely suspended until puberty. Now once the female child here, because embryogenesis, right, it happens in female. Once this female child reaches puberty, this meiosis 1 is completed. Whenever it is completed, right, this meiosis 1 will result in two different cells. It will result in what? Two different cells here after meiosis 1. The first cell and the second cell. Here the first cell, student, the first cell after this entire suspension at puberty. Okay, at puberty, the first cell is called as a haploid cell. It is called as what, students? It is called as secondary oocyte. It is called as what, students? Secondary oocyte. So from primary oocyte to secondary oocyte, it took so many years, around 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, 13 years, 14 years some cases. It is stopped. This primary oocyte, which was entire thing was happening, students. This entire thing. This entire thing was happening where? This entire thing was happening in the embryonic stage. Entire thing embryonic stage. Until the female child reaches puberty, this meiosis 1 was suspended. Suspended at all. Completely suspended. Then childbirth, growth, childhood, then puberty. This meiosis 1 is completed at puberty, and the first cell is called as what? Secondary oocyte. So primary oocyte to secondary oocyte, it waited for almost more than 12, 13 years old. 13 years. And along with the secondary oocyte, there is one more cell called as a small cell here. Small cell. This small cell is called as first polar body. It is called as what, students? It is called as the first polar body here. First polar body. So all of this is happening. This is happening at puberty. This entire thing is happening at puberty right now. That is at puberty, right? At puberty, secondary oocyte plus first polar body is released at puberty. When the female child reaches puberty, right, Whenever this bleeding stage happens, this secondary oocyte is released. And students understand, the same secondary oocyte is released every single month in female. Every single month in the case of female, this secondary oocyte is released after puberty onwards. So after puberty, every single month, one secondary oocyte is released from where? One ovary. So this is released from the ovary right now. Okay. Now students understand what happens next. Students, it is very beautiful. If you understand, it's you have to follow every single line which I say here from now onwards. Okay. No. Till here we understood. Till here we understood. Till here we understood the entire oogenesis. Exactly, menstruation. Before menstruation, there is a bleeding stage. Bleeding stage, right? Bleeding stage is menstruation. But before menstruation, ovulation happens, right? Ovulation. This is what is released during ovulation. Okay. This is what is released during. This is what is released during ovulation. During ovulation. During ovulation, this is released. Secondary oocyte is released. So secondary oocyte is released during ovulation. Okay. Sir, last doubt in the mock test, digestion, circulation are coming. So how can we cover this same scenario also in mock 2? Students, when I teach you the chapter, after this human reproduction, I'll start with human physiology. That time you will get I will teach you. Don't worry. Okay. Now students, during ovulation, the secondary oocyte is released in female every single month. Now students, now so tilt ho gaya na it. ठीक है अभी ठीक है अभी okay. Now students, now what happens? The next story starts from here. Okay. Next starts from here. That is secondary oocyte onwards. Okay. Now let's take secondary oocyte here. Now this secondary oocyte here. Oh my god, it's a different color. To match the same color, students, very important. This secondary oocyte right now, it will start to undergo. It will now start again. It will now start to undergo meiosis 2. Start to undergo meiosis 2. Now students, why will it start again? Because it is getting suspended again. It is getting suspended again. It is now suspended at metaphase 2. Again students, again suspended. So secondary oocyte is suspended now. Again suspended at metaphase 2. Now when does it get complete, students? When does it get complete? When this secondary oocyte, right, when this secondary oocyte comes in contact with the structure called as the sperm. This is the sperm here. When this secondary oocyte comes in contact with the sperm during fertilization, this meiosis 2 is finally completed. And what happens generally is that before the entire fertilization, what happens? From this secondary oocyte will divide now. It will divide because this meiosis 2 has to complete. Yes or no? This meiosis 2 is completed here. Meiosis 2 is completed now. Meiosis 2 is completed. Okay, it is completed. So as a result of meiosis 2, we end up getting a structure, students. First structure is called as ovum or ooted, and the second structure is called as second polar body. Second polar body, students. Second polar body. Okay, and this ovum or ooted, the nuclei inside, it has a nuclei inside, students. Nuclei inside. This nuclei will fuse with the nuclei present in the sperm. Present in the sperm. If this nuclei and this nuclei, students, if they fuse together, what do we get? Zygote. That is called as syngamy. Syngamy is a process of fusion of two different nuclei here. So nuclei of this and this, if they fuse together, we get the zygote eventually. Zygote eventually. Okay, so that is a beautiful process of oogenesis. Now, students, this is incomplete here. This is little incomplete here, students. Okay, not oospore. It is called as ooted or ovum. Here we have secondary oocyte. Okay, now this is little incomplete. This is a little incomplete right now. Now, why? Because whenever there is actually, oocyte is a very delicate thing. So this oocyte is actually covered by a layer around it. Okay, so understand now. That is called as embryogenesis right now. Okay, now students, understand, in the case of humans, female, there is something called as primary follicle. There is something called as secondary follicle. There is something called as tertiary follicle. And there is something called as Graafian follicle. Graafian follicle. Now, students, understand what is primary follicle. Primary follicle is nothing but primary oocyte plus one layer of granulosa cells. Students, understand. I want all of you to understand. Okay, let's say this is a primary oocyte now. This is a primary oocyte which is formed when? At the embryonic stage. Primary oocyte here. Primary oocyte. Okay, embryonic stage. Now around this primary oocyte, इसके अगल बगल में ना एक layer होगा, उसके ऊपर एक layer होगा अभी, उसके ऊपर एक layer होगा. The layer is called as what? The layer is called as granulosa layer. Now students, tell me, all of you, what is this structure now called as? All of you, what do you call this structure right now, students? The outer layer is called as granulosa layer. उसके अंदर क्या है? उसके अंदर है primary oocyte. So the primary oocyte is covered by a layer of granulosa cells. This is called as what, students? This is called as now primary follicle. This is called as primary follicle now. ये primary follicle है. The outer part is called as granular cell. उसके अंदर देखोगे ना, उसके अंदर की तरफ है primary oocyte. उसके अंदर की तरफ है primary oocyte. Students, इतना समझ रहे हो? Students, इतना समझ आ रहा है क्या? Students, what is a follicle? Follicle is a structure after the entire layer formation. Entire layer formation. Okay, students. Now, what is secondary follicle? Secondary follicle के अंदर भी there is something called as primary oocyte plus more layer of granulosa cells. Now what happens secondary follicle, students? In secondary follicle what is happening? See, this is a oocyte now. इस oocyte के बाहर क्या है? Granulosa cell layer है अभी. अगर इसके ऊपर one more layer of granular cells. Now students, now what is this? This is called as secondary follicle now. Secondary follicle. क्योंकि उसके ऊपर क्या है? More layer of granular cells. Now this is called as what? Secondary follicle. Secondary follicle के अंदर क्या है? एक secondary follicle के अंदर students open करोगे एक layer, दूसरा बहुत layer होंगे और एक layer open करोगे. So अंदर की तरफ क्या है? अंदर की तरफ है primary oocyte. अंदर की तरफ है primary oocyte. ठीक है? That is a secondary follicle. ठीक है स्टूडेंट्स, अब समझो स्टूडेंट्स, अब समझो, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। नाउ इस सेकेंडरी फॉलिकल के पास ना स्टूडेंट्स, इस सेकेंडरी फॉलिकल के पास देयर इज अ न्यू थीका layer formation student. Theca layer formation happens here. Theca layer formation happens student. Theca layer formation happens. Now what happens in tertiary follicle students? Understand. In tertiary follicle what is happening is the primary oocyte is converted to secondary oocyte. So ये जो process है ना, ये जो process somewhat it is happening somewhere in this between here also students. Before the ovulation, somewhere this secondary oocyte has a layer around it, more layer around it, and that is called as your, there is something called as tertiary follicle there. So this primary से secondary, ये primary oocyte से secondary oocyte conversion हो रहा है ना, it is happening inside the tertiary follicle student. It is happening in tertiary follicle. और जो ये theca layer था ना, it becomes theca externa, theca interna, but most importantly in tertiary follicle, right, there is something called as fluid filled cavity called as antrum. Called as what students? It is called as antrum. Fluid filled cavity called as antrum is present students. Fluid cavity antrum is present. Now what is happening in Graafian follicle students? What is Graafian follicle? Graafian follicle is very clear students. Graafian follicle has secondary oocyte in it. Very clear student, very clear. And when it is in Graafian layer, when it is Graafian follicle, the top follicle, this secondary oocyte here, it will form a layer around it. And this layer is called as what? It is called as zona pellucida layer. And students remember, it is the same Graafian follicle which will rupture during ovulation. This Graafian follicle will rupture during ovulation. ये rupture हो जाएगा ये. स्टूडेंट देखो अभी दिखाता हूं डेवलपमेंट ऑफ फॉलिकल कैसा होता है. स्टूडेंट दिख रहा है यहां पर. This happens at embryonic stage. Theca formation is happening here. Okay, theca formation is happening here students. Primary oocyte. Now this is called as students. यहां पर primary oocyte था, अभी यहां पर secondary oocyte है, और यहां पर दिख रहा है students एक fluid filled cavity है, यहां पर fluid filled cavity है called as antrum. So ये क्या बन गया students? ये बन गया हमारा tertiary follicle. ये है secondary follicle. Okay, और ये बड़ा होके स्टूडेंट्स it becomes Graafian follicle. This becomes Graafian follicle, and this Graafian follicle will rupture. Graafian follicle will rupture and release the secondary oocyte inside. Okay, and this is the rupturing of Graafian follicle. This is the rupture of Graafian follicle. Now, whatever was inside, the secondary oocyte was inside, right? It is released. Now, ये जो part है ना, जो remaining part, this gets converted to corpus luteum students. This right here is called as corpus luteum now. Remaining part is called as corpus luteum. Okay, remaining part is called as what? Corpus luteum students, corpus luteum. So ये बन जाएगा corpus luteum, whose main role is during menstrual cycle. I'll teach you that time later on. That is corpus luteum. Students यहाँ पर दिख रहा है, यहाँ पर भी देखो. There was the primary follicle, tertiary fluid cavity, Graafian follicle, ruptures. This is called as secondary oocyte is released here. Okay, and see, remaining part becomes what? Corpus luteum. It becomes corpus luteum. Remaining part becomes corpus luteum. Its main role is to produce progesterone to maintain the endometrium layer. I'll teach you in the next class. That is called as corpus luteum. Corpus luteum. So students, here is a side-by-side comparison. We'll talk oogenesis firstly. Oogonia, mitosis, primary oocyte. Fetal stage, embryonic stage. Okay. embryonic stage. Students, practice. Practice. Embryonic stage, primary oocyte. Then first meiotic division. See, childbirth, childhood, puberty. So until puberty, this meiosis one is not completed. At puberty, it is completed to give rise to secondary oocyte and the first polar body. Now this secondary oocyte, once it comes in contact with the egg, so once it comes in contact with the sperm, once this secondary oocyte comes in contact with the sperm, this second meiosis is completed. Ovum rooted or second polar body? Ovum rooted or second polar body? Second polar body, ovum rooted. Entire thing is given here. I given one more of you here also. Can you see? Side by side is happening. Here we can see development of your oocyte, side by side development of follicle also, follicles. So primary follicle, secondary follicle, graphene follicle rupturing, everything. Okay. So follicle develop, it happens side by side. Okay. So students, this is next level concept I'm teaching you right now. अगर आप YouTube को पूरा छान लो ना, इतने डिटेल में, इतने फ्लो चार्ट में कोई भी नहीं पढ़ाएगा. Even any NEET teacher also, you will go check lectures. This detail no one goes. I've gone that detailed here of every single point of oogenesis. oogenesis students. देख रहे हो? मस्त सा नोट्स भी बन गया ना, नोट्स भी बन गया यहाँ पर. अच्छी तरह से नोट्स भी बन गए. oogenesis, spermatogenesis. Spermatogenesis will give rise to 4 haploid sperm. Oogenesis will give you only one egg, only one egg here, or one ovum, only one. Okay, students, we'll skip this questions, and thank you so much, students. Okay, clear students? मजा आया students सबको? मजा आया ना? This is called as oogenesis as well as your spermatogenesis. Students, मेरे को तो मजा, students जब भी पढ़ाता हूँ ये कॉन्सेप्ट मेरे को मजा आता है, क्योंकि I love teaching this part. It's बहुत ही like अगर बच्चे को समझ आएगा ना ये कॉन्सेप्ट, he will remember throughout the life. Okay, so मजा आया होगा students. I will see you in the next class. And next class students, I'll teach you something very nice. I'll teach you what is gastrulation, baby कैसे students. Okay, students, how much students मैंने कितना complete किया है? मैंने let's say cell cycle, cell unit of life, biomolecules, plant reproduction, genetics. वे genetics में हमने principles of inheritance किया है. उसके बाद स्टूडेंट्स में कुछ और किया है कि मैं भूल गया हूँ स्टूडेंट्स, थोड़ा देख लो. मैंने बहुत किया है, वहीं पर किया है मैंने, पता नहीं मैंने क्या क्या किया स्टूडेंट्स. और जेनेटिक्स भी किया है मैंने. अभी नेक्स्ट इसके बाद हम करेंगे ह्यूमन फिजियोलॉजी, प्रॉपरली ह्यूमन फिजियोलॉजी. ह्यूमन फिजियोलॉजी में ना आपको मैं बहुत सारे एनिमेशंस दिखाऊंगा, एनिमेशंस. ठीक है, एनिमेशन दिखा के पढ़ाऊंगा. ठीक है, ह्यूमन फिजियोलॉजी के बाद प्लांट फिजियोलॉजी. और जब प्लांट फिजियोलॉजी हो जाएगा तब तक तो हमारा 90% सिलेबस कंप्लीट हो जाएगा. उसके बाद रिमेनिंग 10% इज इकोलॉजी. Okay, remaining 10% is only ecology after that. Complete. Okay, so let's say students, human physiology time लगेगा human physiology, है ना? I get only less classes. I take very less classes. I take only 2 classes per day, per week. So I'll try to change it to 3 classes right now. This B2 है ना, B2O को निकाल देंगे और B2A को निकाल के और एक क्लास रख देंगे, पूरा एक 1 hour क्लास. Okay, students, डाउट पूछो. I always encourage doubts in my class. Because अगर डाउट्स हो क्लियर होगे तो पढ़ोगे ना. पूछो डाउट्स. This is, please shoot your doubts, students. Please shoot your doubts, all of you. Or students, let me know the doubt in the comment section. I'll reply to it if you want, because my throat is already hurting, students. You have completed cell, students. Okay, fine. Ask, student. Ask. I'll take 2 more minutes of doubts. बताओ स्टूडेंट्स, बताओ जल्दी से डाउट्स बताओ. Students, I'm a plant physiology expert. You can ask me plant physiology a lot of topics because I'm a botanist, right? I'm a botanist. I have done my MSc, masters in botany, right? So I'm a right. Plant physiology is very complex. Plant physiology you will get very selected questions. Human physiology उतना नहीं है. Human physiology मैंने देखा है. Especially locomotion and chemical coordination और neural control से बहुत question आते हैं, बहुत आते हैं. Sir, what is the role of polar, students? Role of polar body is not known actually. Role of polar body is not ever known. If you open NCERT, if you open also, many research says polar body has a reservoir of nutrients and to balance it out, but I believe polar body has much more better role, but till now we have not able to get a proper idea on what is the role of polar body actually. Okay, it's sufficient for NSEJS students. NSEJS के लिए आपको सेल बायोलॉजी कंप्लीट होना पड़ेगा, जेनेटिक्स होना पड़ेगा, एवोल्यूशन पढ़ना पड़ेगा और इकोलॉजी पढ़ना पड़ेगा. इकोलॉजी पढ़ना ही पड़ेगा स्टूडेंट, इकोलॉजी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. इकोलॉजी से क्वेश्चंस आते ही आते हैं, इकोलॉजी से 2-3 क्वेश्चन आते हैं. सो जेनेटिक्स पढ़ो, सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है. मैंने पढ़ा है ना जेनेटिक्स, मेंडेलियन जेनेटिक्स, क्रोमोसोमल थ्योरी ऑफ इनहेरिटेंस, उसे पढ़ो एक बार, ठीक है. उसको छोड़ के ना लर्न एवोल्यूशन, ह्यूमन एवोल्यूशन मैंने पढ़ा है एक बार. लर्न ह्यूमन एवोल्यूशन, लर्न द एंटायर एवोल्यूशन ओनली. व्हाट इज कन्वर्जेंस, व्हाट इज डाइवर्जेंस, व्हाट इज एनालॉगस, ठीक है. ओ या स्टूडेंट्स, एनिमल किंगडम भी है ना बहुत स्टूडेंट्स, सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट एनिमल किंगडम है, ठीक है, सबसे एनिमल किंगडम स्टूडेंट्स. सो इफ यू वांट आई कैन टीच यू एनिमल किंगडम नेक्स्ट. इसके बाद एनिमल किंगडम करें हम, इस ह्यूमन फिजियोलॉजी के बाद एनिमल किंगडम करें, पूरा का पूरा एनिमल किंगडम, ठीक है. ओके ठीक है स्टूडेंट्स, इसके बाद हम एनिमल किंगडम कर देते हैं. थोड़ा एनिमल किंगडम सबसे मजा आएगा. एनिमल किंगडम में बहुत याद रखना पड़ेगा, बहुत सारे टॉपिक्स एनिमल किंगडम के लिए स्टूडेंट्स. एनिमल किंगडम मजा आएगा स्टूडेंट्स, पढ़ाऊंगा बहुत अच्छी तरह से पढ़ाऊंगा. व्हाट इज कॉर्डेटा, व्हाट इज हेमी कॉर्डेटा, मस्त से पढ़ेंगे एक बार, ठीक है. एनिमल किंगडम स्टूडेंट्स. चलो स्टूडेंट्स, बाय बाय, टेक केयर ऑल ऑफ यू. लेट मी नो इन द कमेंट सेक्शन हाउ वाज द क्लास. लेट मी नो इन द कमेंट सेक्शन हाउ वाज द क्लास एंड आई विल सी द स्टूडेंट्स. क्लासिफिकेशन पढ़ाया मैंने एक बार स्टूडेंट्स. आई हैव फिनिश्ड बायोलॉजी क्लासिफिकेशन. बायोलॉजी क्लासिफिकेशन पढ़ाया मैंने. किंगडम मोनेरा, प्रोटिस्टा, एनिमिलिया, फंजाई, प्लांटे. एनिमिलिया और प्लांटे नहीं करवाया मैंने सेपरेटली, पर मैंने करवाया मैंने. किंगडम मोनेरा हो गया पूरा, प्रोटिस्टा हो गया है, फंजाई भी हो गया है. चेक करो चैनल में स्टूडेंट्स, पढ़ाया मैंने एक बार. लिविंग वर्ल्ड पढ़ाया मैंने, ठीक है स्टूडेंट्स, लिविंग वर्ल्ड भी पढ़ाया मैंने, ठीक है, पढ़ाया मैंने स्टूडेंट्स. क्लासिफिकेशन हो गया है, क्लासिफिकेशन चेक करो एक बार चैनल में. मोनेरा, प्रोटिस्टा, फंजाई हो गया है. प्लांट किंगडम, एनिमल किंगडम सेपरेट पढ़ाऊंगा एक बार, मैं सेपरेटली पढ़ाऊंगा मैं, ठीक है. व्हाट इज ब्रायोफाइट्स स्टूडेंट्स, पता है आपको व्हाट इज ब्रायोफाइट्स, लिवरवर्ट्स, मॉसेस, टेराडोफाइट्स. What is homospore, heterospore, what are gymnosperms, what are angiosperms, पता है स्टूडेंट्स, पता है. डोंट वरी, पढ़ाऊंगा वो भी पढ़ेंगे एक बार, ठीक है स्टूडेंट्स. तो थैंक यू सो मच स्टूडेंट्स, बाय बाय, ऑल ऑफ यू, टेक केयर, हैव अ ग्रेट डे है स्टूडेंट्स, हैव अ ग्रेट डे ऑल ऑफ यू, बाय बाय स्टूडेंट्स, बाय बाय.